All right, we're going to start now about the topic of whether or not fate is unfair. That's going to be the topic under discussion today. Swayambhuva Manu is going to give us a little education on the topic of whether or not luck or fate or destiny or karma is fair or unfair. The way that it went, the way that the story goes, is Dhruva's brother got killed, and Dhruva went into a rage and killed everybody connected with his brother's killer. So his brother was killed by a yaksha, kind of a nature god. So Dhruva went out and started attacking every single yaksha in the mountain. Manu, his grandfather Manu, comes and says, what you're doing is ridiculous. This is not what good people do. You're attacking innocent people. Stop. And he says, don't you realize, why are you losing your mind over this, over the death of your brother? This is karma. This is fate. Calm down. Now, actually, I just was thinking about this, and I think if we give Dhruva a little psychoanalysis, it may be that it's because he is aware of this that he's actually freaking out so hard. He's aware that everybody obtains the results of their actions quite fairly, which means that the death which just befell his brother and the death that just befell his co-mother, they deserved it, which means they deserved it because of what they did to him, which means that he feels like he's at fault. So he's trying, it's kind of a common psychological reaction is to blame somebody else when you feel you're at fault. So he's trying to put the blame onto all these yakshas, but he's expressing his anger at himself for being so insulted by them. That might be what's really at the bottom of Dhruva's psychology. But Manu is taking the opportunity, or at least the narrator of the Purana is taking the opportunity to have Manu lecture Dhruva about karma so that you and I can hear this conversation and get this straight. So Manu is going to explain to Dhruva why karma is fair. Okay? So Dhruva says, I think it's unfair. Manu has made the point that destiny is Vishnu's setup. He set up things this way, that every action has a reaction. And so the things that happen are the result of your actions. And so the things that happen are fair. Dhruva says, if it's the case that everything is fair, then how come we don't see equality? How come we see inequality? That's his first doubt. By inequality, you mean not everybody is equally beautiful, not everybody is equally healthy, not everybody is equally happy, not everybody is equally smart, etc., 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 wealthy. So if destiny is fair, then everybody should have the same amount of money, the same amount of energy, etc. So Swayambhuva now answers this doubt. He says, the individual conscious beings who become involved with the external world simply submit to the rules he establishes, just as dust submits to the wind. That's a good analogy. Sometimes these rules diminish their lifespan. Sometimes they increase it. He's not directly involved in either case. He is absorbed in internal affairs within himself, and his laws impartially reward and punish those absorbed in the external world. So there's a couple of side topics maybe that are worth at least clarifying, but let's make sure we catch the main topic. As dust submits to the wind is very, very interesting. So our relationship to karma is the same relationship as dust in the wind. Remember the first high school band that I idolized? did a cover of this song by Kansas, Dust in the Wind, at the high school battle of the bands. They did such a good job. It was unbelievable. But yeah, that's dust in the wind, that analogy. You have no possibility of circumventing these rules. That's one thing that he says. And he says, the individual conscious beings who are involved in the external world are therefore submitted to the rules of that world, just as dust is submitted to the wind. Now he says, depending on how they interact with the rules of the world, they either prosper or whatever the opposite of prosper is, perish. They either prosper or perish. They either prosper or suffer. It's not the rules being impartial. It's not the rules being partial. For example, if I light a match, if I have let's say an electric taser or something, and I say, then there's two people in the room, and I say, don't touch this. It's going to hurt. And one of the persons touches it, and it hurts. Am I a bad guy for making that person get hurt by the taser? No, the taser is going to hurt you if you touch it. It's up to you whether or not you touch it. If I say, here's some broccoli, eat this, you'll be healthy. And one person says, okay, and the other person says, no. The person that says, okay, winds up healthy. The person that says, no, winds up feeling weak. Whose fault is it? Is it the broccoli's fault? Is it my fault? It's the individual's fault for deciding how they're going to interact with the way the world works. So what Manu is saying is the inequality that's in the world doesn't mean that there's partiality at the root of the world. The creator of the world, or the whatever, that's kind of Christians, the creator. But the root of the world is impartial being. But he just has rules set up about how the world works. Not even rules like rules, but just properties in the world of what things do when you interact with them. If you interact with them in the right way, you enjoy the world. If you interact with them in the wrong way, you suffer. So you get it? Sandeep says, what does good karma lead to in this life, or we get benefits in the next life, depending on how complicated. The rewards which are impossible to deliver to you in this life have to wait for another life. For example, if you do something that merits you being a millionaire, like let's say you give a very needy and worthy person a donation of, say, $1,000. Then you probably deserve to become a millionaire by karma. But let's say your children or your spouse or the other people connected with you don't have the karma to deserve to have a millionaire taking care of them. So you can't get those results immediately. Simple example. So many of the results from activities have to wait for a new situation. But the results which can be given immediately get given immediately. All right, so now, very nice quote. Natalie wants to know, so what's the correct way to relate to the world? Basically, it's non-selfishness. But that's a big, big topic. We'll cover that when we get to it. But for sure, Bhagavatam will explain that. So now Dhruva has another doubt. So Manu said the world's fair. Dhruva said, if the world is fair, then why do some people die and some people live? Why are some people rich, some people poor? Manu says, because of the way they act. Because of their own actions, they get different results from the world. The world is impartial. It doesn't say, no, I like the way you look. I'm not going to. Fires and say, you know what? I like you. I'm not going to burn you. Or, I don't like you. I'm going to come and burn you. Fire is just fire. If you interact with it the right way, you can cook. If you interact with it the wrong way, you burn down your house. So that's the way the world is. That's Mana's answer. It's not. The world is not partial. The inequality is due to people's actions being either in ignorance, more or less in ignorance, or in knowledge. My eyes are killing me lately. Okay, now, Dhruva's next question is, well, why? Why do people have different ways of behaving? That doesn't make, like, how does that make sense? If they're all parts of the same being, like, why is one person want to interact with fire in a certain way and another person want to interact with it in a different way? This is an interesting question. He's basically asking, why are there individuals with different ways of interacting with the world? And I'll check your questions later, but let's get Dhruva's question first. Swayambhuva he explains there's a lot of different opinions about this amongst sages. There's different opinions about why individuals are individuals. So he gives a couple of the opinions. He says, some say it's due to cause and effect, or karma. So some say the individuality of people is a result of their actions, which basically that's your behavioralist model, I think, in psychology. Like basically everybody is the same, but then because of the way that you act, you acquire habits, and those habits reinforce themselves, and then you become very different from each other. That's one school of thought, that the individuality of people is just due to the momentum of their cause and effect from their actions. One school. Another school says it's due to each individual having a unique nature, swabhav. Each individual has an inherently unique nature. Some say, and so now a third say, that it's all fate and predestination, daiva. Some say that actually there's no individuals really, it's just all God's pulling strings and making things happen according to their whims. It's like a Greek school of thought, ancient Greek school of thought. But certainly others say it's because each individual person has their own individual desires, or kama. So he says, certainly, this is the one that's the primary one. None of these opinions are entirely correct or incorrect, because they all play a role in causing living entities to be individuals, but the root of them all is kama, individual desire and will. So all four of these schools of thought have correctness to them. Why do individuals interact with the world differently and therefore get different results? All four of these principles are in action, are partially true. The root of the thing is that each person has different desires. Every being is consciousness. And each different aspect of consciousness is known as a different aspect of consciousness. It's differentiable because of what it wants to be conscious of, the type of thing that it wants to experience. So because each individual mode of consciousness is differentiated by the type of thing that it wants to experience, therefore it has different kama. Each different atma has a different kama, a different kind of desire. That kama is the basis for their swabhava. It's the basis for them all having different natures. That swabhava is the basis for their karma. It's the basis of them engaging in different kind of deeds and getting the momentum going of the behavioral model. And those deeds are the basis for their daiva, or how the gods and the rules of nature control them. You get it? So Manu has just explained what individuality is. If you don't go down to kama, then you think that individuality maybe is a temporary thing. If individuality is just caused by karma, then cease the karma, the individuality will cease. If it's just caused by daiva, same thing. If it's just caused by swabhava, what's the cause of the swabhava? So the fullest explanation that Manu actually really gave is every conscious entity wants to be conscious of a different thing. That's what makes it a unique entity. It wants to have its own type of experience. And that's the root of its kama, and that's the kama is the root of the swabhava is the root of the karma is the root of the daiva. All right, let's see what we got in your questions. Yes, yes. What if you are aware of yourself as a soul, yet have made poor choices due to trauma, abuse inflicted by you by others? So yeah, that's your samskars. These are the results of the karma. See, your individuality at the root is your individual kama, or desire to experience life. Then that gives you an individual nature and then engages you in actions. But in the course of those actions, you get involved in all kinds of situations, and some of them are difficult and painful, and some of them are horrible. That's the daiva, the result of the action. And then the result of the action reinforces itself. So when you have a situation where you have trauma from being in painful activities, being involved in painful situations, it's difficult. You have to purge the samskar. Samskara means a dent or a scar or a mark, but it's a mark in the mind. So every memory is a type of samskar, but these traumatic memories leave very harsh scars in the mind. So you have to do different therapies to purge the samskar, or make it more shallow, so that it's not so powerful in your mind, so that you can get freedom to engage in those activities properly. J. Quinn, is it unselfishness or living towards devotion towards the Supreme Godhead? There's no difference. Unselfishness is the root of devotion to the Supreme. Anil, how does Dharma relate to this? Is individual Dharma somewhat eternal? No, Dharma means the inherent nature of a thing, and therefore the inherent function of the thing. So the aspects of the thing which are temporary have temporary dharmas. The aspects of the thing which are more long-term have more long-term. And the aspects of the thing which are eternal have eternal dharmas. Is falling in love a bad karma? It could be bad or good, depending on who you fall in love with. Is our destiny already written in the name of karma, or we make one? What's the word karma, Sandeep? Karma means action. Your destiny is written by you. It's already written by you in the past. Your present karma is written by you from the you of your past. Your future karma is being written by you from the you of the present. Yellow Crystal Warrior, me and my twin brother were raised in the same environment but are like two sides of the same coin. How would that be explained? So different yet so similar. It's because you're different. You have different karmas. How is it yeah, if you only take a behavioral model, then that will be perhaps difficult to explain, but not impossible to explain, because you guys didn't do the exact same actions. I hope you guys are getting this. I hope you're listening. Okay, so Dhruva has said, Manu has said the world is fair. Why are you freaking out about what happened to your brother? The world is fair. Dhruva says the world's not fair. If the world's fair, why are there rich and poor? Manu explains it's because people interact with the world differently. They get different results. Dhruva says, why do they interact with the world differently? Manu says, well, at the root, it's because they're different people. They have different ambitions. And then there's these other factors that come into play about, as a result of being different at the core, they behave differently and interact with things differently. Now, Dhruva says, why do they have different kamas? Why is consciousness have different desires to experience world? Consciousness wants to experience. That's the fundamental nature of consciousness, is to experience. The fundamental reality is consciousness. The fundamental nature of consciousness is to experience. Therefore, the fundamental character of consciousness is the desire to experience. Then specific instances of consciousness have specific desires to experience specific things. That's what makes them different. That's what makes Atmas. Now, Dhruva wants to know, why bother having Atmas? if you have a world where some people suffer and some people enjoy as a result of having Atmas, maybe this whole thing is not worth it. Why have Atmas in the first place? I got to cover up your thing because sometimes I get mad at you. Because my conviction is, and no, I shouldn't be mad at you, but listen carefully. I know what the problem is. It's the format of the YouTube thing is that you ask questions at any time. So that's what I'm not used to. Usually in in-person thing, I'll say like, got any questions? Then you ask questions and it'd be, all right, whatever, let's go on. So Manu explains the Supreme, who's beyond scrutiny and beyond examination, likes to generate many different types of energy. My dear boy, among these philosophers and logicians, nobody really understands his intention. He has his own reasons, and he manifests things according to his liking. There's no causality superior to his will. So Dhruva pushed the point really far. My brother died. You say it's fair. I say it's not fair. You say the world is fair. How can it be unfair? I say the world's not fair. There's rich people, there's poor people. You say that's fair because people interact with the world different ways. Why should they interact with the world in certain different ways and get different results? You say that's because they're fundamentally different beings. Now I'm asking you, why should they be fundamentally different beings? So now Manu's answer is because that's what the base being, that's what the foundational being likes. The foundational being, just put yourself, let's pretend that you are the foundational being. You could wake up every day and have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And every day, the same brand of peanut butter, the same brand of jelly, the same flavor, and the same bread. Every single day. For eternity. How will you like that? You're the supreme being. You're the foundation of reality. You can form reality by your will. Are you going to form the same exact peanut butter and jelly sandwich every single day? Do you really want to only have one experience? Highly doubtful. Highly doubtful. What you really want is newness. Obviously, the whole advertising industry is based on this fact. The whole principle of advertising and selling things. People want newness. What do all the astrologers that make a lot of money tell me to do? Put some new readings up there. Make something new. You always have to put out something new, a new report, a new this and new that. Because people want new things. So the Supreme doesn't manifest a reality which is homogeneous. The Supreme manifests reality which is prismatic and fractal, multifaceted. That's what Manu's answer is. The reason why there's all these different individuals who do different things and get different results and so much difference is because that's exciting, that's enjoyable, and that's what the root consciousness wants. It wants to be excited. It wants to be happy that it exists. And he says, you can't scrutinize this, you can't evaluate it, you can't ask for another reason beyond it, because this is the fundamental reasoning. Consciousness, the fundament of reality, and its desire to experience is the fundamental motivation for reality to exist. There's no prior cause to it. So let's see if you guys get that. Abhishek, why does the jiva have different karma? If karma was given, how are they responsible? It's not given. Karma is their nature. Each individual Atma is an Atma because of their specific karma. You understand that point? Consciousness is Brahman. Consciousness wants to experience. It's an Atma because it has a specific want to experience something specific. Specific in the sense of like wanting a particular kind of flavor. It's not specific like I want a PS5 with this such and such video game. But specific in these base flavors. Those extreme specificities come much later on in the evolutionary chain of cause and effect. Oh my God. Good, Flatlander. Ayush, why after so many superior encounters, Dhruva is falling back to square one, killing the non-deserving? This is an important point. The most important point here that I want to express is we have the wrong idea of what a good person is. We always think that a good person won't make a mistake. This is the same thing that will help a lot of you guys who are saying, I feel bad about myself, I don't have good self-esteem, etc. You did something wrong or people did things wrong to you. To be a good person doesn't mean that nothing goes wrong in your life. To be a good person doesn't mean that you don't even make a mistake. The character of the person is known in how they react to their mistakes. If Dhruva is going to stubbornly stick to his mistake and defend his mistake and validate his mistake and make his mistake into the new right way of doing things, then Dhruva is not a sadhu. Sadhureva samantavya. You know that shloka from Bhagavad Gita? Somebody remembers the first words of it? Apichet suduracharo manyate mam ananyabhak. Bhajate mam ananyabhak. Sadhureva samantavya. Chipram bhavati dharmatma. The Krishna in Gita says, a sadhu or a great person may do something, may make a mistake and do something wrong. But the clue, the key, the hallmark of them being a great person is that they quickly correct themselves. Chipram bhavati dharmatma. They quickly recognize their mistake and correct it. So actually, the side point is, as long as you don't have prem bhakti, fully developed bhakti, you'll make mistakes. Dhruva has bhava bhakti. He had momentary experience of Vishnu. And even in bhava bhakti, you can make mistakes. But the quality of Dhruva is he's gonna say, "Oops, I'm sorry," and he's gonna apologize. All right, so let's continue a little bit more because this is very interesting. What's going to happen next? My child Swayambhuva said, "These followers of the god of wealth, the yakshas are the armies of Kuvera." Remember when from the previous story of Shiva and Sati, remember when everybody went up the mountain to try to find Shiva? They had to go past Kuvera's city. That's the mountain that Dhruva is on right now. And that Kuvera city is full of the yakshas. So he said, they're followers of the god of wealth. They're not really your brother's killers. It's destiny that creates a person. It's destiny that destroys him. That's what creates everything, and that's what destroys everything. Now Dhruva gets a little bit pissed or emotional. He says, why has the Supreme created so much destruction and death? Why did the Supreme allow this to happen? He let my brother die as a result of the way that his reality is set up. So Swayambhuva replies, no, he's not to blame for it. It is our own selfish ambitions that entangle us in the repercussions of trying to appropriate the beautiful world for ourselves. Your brother did terrible things. So did your co-mother. That's why terrible things happen, because people do terrible things. It's that simple. You want to know how somebody can be murdered? Because people can murder. So because people can murder, then there are people who get murdered. It couldn't be more simpler or oxymoronic than that. It's our own selfish ambitions that entangle us in the repercussions of trying to appropriate the beautiful world for ourselves. This world is his energy, and its rules are what creates, maintains, and destroys everything. He himself is equal to everyone. He is everyone's true essence, true master, and true origin. So what Swayambhuva is saying is answering somebody's question from earlier, like, what's the appropriate way to deal with the world? Not selfish, I was saying. Not trying to appropriate the beautiful world for yourself. You realize that the beautiful world belongs to the base entity, the fundamental entity, not just you, one aspect of it. So you don't interact with the world for your own happiness exclusively. You interact with the world for everybody's happiness. That's the basic function of Dharma. The Puranas say Dharma can be summarized by do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's in the Puranas as well. So Swayambhuva is saying it's not God's fault that people choose to interact with the world in a selfish way. They're all individual entities. He just made them individuals. He didn't make them have to interact with the world in a selfish way. He's equal to everybody. Now Dhruva is frustrated and he says, it's just his rules, Manu is saying. These are his rules. If you interact, if you kill, then somebody's going to die, and it's you. You set up an environment in which people are killed if you're a killer. If you're horrible to people, then you're in an environment that's going to be horrible. So Dhruva says, oh, I don't like his rules, which have killed my brother. My dear, Swayambhuva said compassionately, learn to completely accept destiny, whether it brings life or death. So Swayambhuva says, just please learn to accept destiny. Dhruva says, why? Why should I accept destiny? He says, Swayambhuva says, because destiny is a system created by a person who wants the ultimate good for everyone in the world. And because fighting against it is useless. Even the creator of the world, Brahma, has to follow this system like a bull follows the reins tied to his nose. So he's saying, don't fight destiny and karma. Why? Realize that the person who made this system actually wants your well-being. If you know that your parents want your well-being, then even when they're mad at you and telling you what you did wrong and everything, in the back of all your annoyance is the feeling that, well, I'll benefit from this because my parents love me and they're trying to teach me something. I don't like it. It's annoying. I can't wait for it to be over, but it's good for me. If you don't think your parents are good people, if you don't think that they actually care about your self-interest, then you'll never experience that. You'll just be frustrated with the way that they treat you. So have that attitude towards karma. If you realize that the parent of this world is a good person who wants you to be happy, then why not accept the rules and the way the rules act and try to interact with them properly rather than hate them? And if you try not to do that, you're not going to get anywhere anyway. Because it's like dust in the wind. Now at this point, Dhruva is silent. And Swayambhuva says to him, when you were 5 years old, you left your mother with a heart broken by the insults of her co-wife. You went into the forest, and by your disciplines you saw him with your own eyes. Your worship of him granted you a place beyond anything in the three worlds. My dear, free yourself from all this hostility. Compose yourself. Look within yourself and search for that completely pure being who is singular, infallible, and transcendent. Do this, and you will realize that all this schism is useless and fake. When you realize this, you will see your true self, and you will see the all-attractive, who is the very essence of endless bliss and the wellspring of all energy. Supreme, transcendent devotion will flow from your true self to him and loosen all the knots of ignorance tied tightly by selfishness and self-centeredness. So, at this point, Dhruva regains his composure after this advice, and his face becomes peaceful. And now Swayambhuva congratulates him. Manu congratulates him. Aha! I see you've conquered your true foe, anger. The anger, you were fighting against these guys, but your true foe is anger, and it was conquering you. You were winning this battle, but you were losing the battle to anger. Now you've won the battle because you've conquered your anger. Now you're blessed. May you attain the supreme blessing. Do not forget what I have told you. Think about it often, King, just like taking medicine regularly to keep a chronic disease in check. That's important also to your thing of like, why did Dhruva fall back? King says you have to constantly keep yourself from falling back. Think about this medicine. Think about this often, like the same way you take medicine regularly for a chronic disease. People who become possessed by anger terrify the world. The wise who value fearlessness and who value their true selves should never let themselves become enwrapped in anger. Out of anger, you killed these pious gods, thinking they killed my brother. What you have done was an insult to the god of wealth, Kuvera, who's Shiva's brother. Dear boy, and remember the last story, you don't want to make Shiva upset. So, dear boy, go to him right away, seeking forgiveness. Offer your respects submissively and apologize. Do not allow the wrath of great beings to overtake our family. Dhruva thanked Swayambhuva for his guidance, and Swayambhuva then returned with the sages to his city. All right, that's the whole story. So Swayambhuva Manu got Dhruva to regain his composure, and then told him, you got to go apologize for what you just did. Go apologize to Kuvera right away, first thing. Don't put it off. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble, and you're going to get all of us in trouble. Okie dokie. So tomorrow we'll find out what happens when Dhruva meets Kuvera, the chief of all these yakshas. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, Miss Vinay, it's something like that. It must be hard to have had the ability to, through your own work, have to achieve the highest thing, but unable to have the control to make the same things happen to those you love. Like I said in the beginning, I think if we really psychoanalyze Dhruva, his problem is that he knows what Manu is telling him, most of it. He knows the fact that people get the results of their actions, and that his brother got killed because of the way he was treated. And so he feels responsible for it, and that's what's driving him nuts. There's a lot of nice comments. Heital says it's making sense. Woot, good one. I have so many spaces to fill in, but I don't know how to ask the real questions. That's frustrating. So, Neil, the thing is, that's why listening is primary. Listening is primary. Questions come as a result of listening. So don't even worry about asking the right questions. Just listen carefully. Listen to the Bhagavatam carefully, and then whatever questions need to be asked will become obvious by listening, by trying to listen carefully. And when you're not really sure what you don't understand, you just keep listening. Yes, Rick, I think that's about right. And so I'm going to turn off the stream now and see you guys tomorrow. And we find out how Kuvera reacts What do you think? Is Kuvera going to do a Shiva? Probably not. Shiva. Dhruva is not Daksha. See, Daksha's character was unrepentant up to the very end, until after he was killed by Shiva. Only then did he realize his problem and say, I'm sorry. Dhruva is repentant right away, so he's not going to get the same reaction out of Shiva's camp as Daksha got. Okay, guys, see you tomorrow.